But we here, we simply know that when he says fuel, it means anything that can burn, not specifically petrol and so.
We're going to cooperate together and we're going to help each other because it's the only way we can do something for the future. Like I said, we was very, very hard fighting for this for today.
In the coming weeks or months, Fire Protect Gambia Limited will hope to apply the knowledge they have to protect the country from fire outbreaks.
And there we're going to take a short break. The news continues in just a moment.
This Ramadan, AfriCell brings you many services to make your Ramadan a very special one. With the AfriCell Prayer Time service, now you can subscribe by typing SUB and send it by SMS to 7120 to receive an SMS reminder 5 minutes before each prayer time for $1 per day only. Also this Ramadan, you can receive different kinds of prayers on your AfriCell line with the Prayer of the Day service by simply sending a blank SMS to 7122 and receive 2 text messages containing a translated and a transliterated version of the prayer for $1 only. All this and more. With your AfriCell line, you can now listen to the Holy Quran recitation by simply calling 2153, follow the voice prompt, and dial the number of the surah you want to listen to followed by the hash key for 50 bututs per minute only. And live in your Ramadan this year with the Prayer of the Day, the Prayer Times Reminder, and the Quran recitation service from AfriCell. May all your prayers be answered.
Welcome back to GRT's news. The news outside the Gambia now. In Afghanistan, NATO officials are investigating the cause of a Chinook helicopter crash that killed 31 American troops and a number of Afghan soldiers. The deaths are the single biggest loss of American lives since the invasion in 2011. Meanwhile, in neighboring Pakistan, Taliban militants have set fire to 16 transport vehicles supplying fuel to NATO troops in Afghanistan. Let's look at this report for more on that.
30 U.S. soldiers and 8 Afghans were killed on Saturday when their Chinook helicopter, similar to the one seen here, crashed in central Afghanistan. The cause of the accident is unknown. 22 of the American soldiers were members of the Navy SEALs, the elite military unit that killed bin Laden. An Afghan interpreter and 7 members of the Afghan Special Forces also perished. The accident was the deadliest suffered by the coalition in 6 years. "16 NATO transport vehicles were destroyed in a bomb explosion on Saturday in Pakistan. There were no injuries. The vehicles were used to transport petrol to NATO troops over the Afghan border. They were among 28 vehicles parked at a terminal in Peshawar, located in a region where the Taliban are active. The Taliban had repeatedly warned that they would attack NATO supply lines into Afghanistan. An historic protest in Israel brought some 300,000 people to the streets on Saturday. For the last 3 weeks, Israelis have protested the government's inertia in enacting reforms concerning housing, salaries, taxes, and social programs. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu finally ceded to pressure. On Sunday, he promised a change in priorities to ease the economic burden on the citizens of Israel. Unrest in New Caledonia on Saturday has left 4 people dead and 23 injured. Violence began in this French territory east of Australia when residents on the island of Mare, angry over the high price of airline tickets, blockaded the airport and began to dispute with residents from a neighboring community. Long-standing tensions between the communities aggravated the situation and someone opened fire. On Sunday, residents resumed their blockade. The government has sent military troops to the island.
Residents of war-ravaged Mogadishu, which has seen heavy fighting between the AU-backed Somali government troops and the militant Al-Shabaab group, Saturday woke up to an unusual scene after the guns fell silent for the first time in 20 years. This follows the sudden departure of the rebels, a development seen as a victory by the weak transitional federal government. But the militants, as we hear in this report, have vowed to continue the fight, describing the pullout as a tactical maneuver.
People can hardly believe their eyes and ears. There is no shooting. The streets are silent. Only 2 days ago, this district of Mogadishu was the scene of all-out fighting between Islamic militia soldiers and Somali government troops backed by African Union soldiers. But to everyone's surprise, the Shabab Islamic militia fighters disappeared on Friday night. We are happy to see that we control the entire city now and that we forced the Shabab to leave. We thank the Somali government and the African Union troops who defeated our enemies. There are about 9,000 African Union troops on the ground, and with their help, the government fighters have progressed in the past few months. But the Shabab fighters still control the entire northeastern part of Mogadishu, so people were asking, why did they leave? The Shabab said it was a strategic pullout, but it may be linked to the massive food shortages and famine ravaging their strongholds. But the transition government, which controls only Mogadishu, is calling it a real victory. The Somali government is proud of the success of its troops and the African Union fighters who defeated their enemy, the Shabab. The lull in the fighting is a real break for civilians, and for those fleeing the famine, there is now hope of receiving more humanitarian aid.
Let's now take a look at the sports now. Foreign-based players of the Gambian national team, the Scorpions, have started arriving in the country ahead of Wednesday's big friendly encounter against Congo. The Congolese team is expected in Banjul tonight. The two teams are rehearsing ahead of the penultimate rounds of qualifiers in the 2012 African Nations Cup. Kemo Cisse, an executive member of the Gambia Football Association, has been speaking extensively about the importance of the forthcoming game.
At the 2012 CAN, Cup of Nations. And it is customary that before you meet your opponent during the qualifiers, it is always advisable that you have a test match. By that, you will be able to see the state of your players, their physical and tactical preparedness, because these teams are all in foreign-based players, and they are playing in different teams. They are playing different games. Some of them might get injured, some of them might be half fit, and you need to work on that quickly before you come to the match proper. So FIFA normally allows countries to have test matches, and that's why they create some free days where all foreign-based players can be released by their clubs, because these clubs are owned, these teams are owned by different clubs. So for you to get them to play for your national team, you need to get their permission. But invariably, there are difficulties to get players from their clubs because they are so important in their respective clubs, and that, you know, it creates some difficulties in getting players released. So FIFA has designed a calendar where there are free dates. They call it calendar FIFA dates, where players are obliged to be released by their respective players for national duties. And we seize this opportunity, as it is a FIFA date, to get our teams, our players, to come and play this very important match. Congo is a very strong team, and if we can put up well with Congo, there is every reason for us to believe that we will be able to beat Namibia and Burkina subsequently.
Keba Mansani Cisse there speaking to GRTS. From sports, we now shift our attention to the weather in this report by the Central Forecast Office.
Oh yes, you can drive your way there. With the Elton to Mecca Japale Kafo promo, the Hajj is possible. Stay loyal or become a member of the Elton Japale Kafo today and enjoy the double take. Because every time you fill your tank at any of our Elton stations, you get a chance to be in our monthly raffle draw. To take home lots of goodies like gallons of oil, bags of rice, bags of sugar, vehicle accessories, and much more. Plus a chance to become the lucky winner of the Elton to Mecca Japale Kafo fully paid Hajj expenses. Remember, it's a double take. Your single loyalty for the monthly draw and the Elton to Mecca Japale Kafo final draw to be held just before the Hajj. For more information, drop by any of our Elton stations. Elton, a new vision of service.
Good evening and welcome to the weather segment. It begins with a summary of today's weather followed by the forecast. Conditions of the Gambia today were mainly warm and sunny. For what will follow, let's take a look at the image captured at 16:30 hours, indicating the spread of convective clouds over